Hello?
I'm on a live TV interview.
And welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. And yes, you are on a live TV interview, sir. How are you? Joining me, Colonel Alan West. You can follow him on X at Alan West, ALLEN West. And he is absolutely one of my favorite people. I absolutely adore this man. He's so much fun, and he's just the kindest, nicest guy you'd ever want to know. So we are blessed to have him with us tonight.
It's always
Thank
my
you,
pleasure
sir.
to be with you. Thank you, Mary.
You're just such a sweetie. One of these days, we're going to
You're ruining my reputation. Golly.
Oh yeah, listen, you can kill somebody with a teaspoon, I'm sure. But on the inside, you're just a big teddy bear. He is GOP. Congratulations,
Thank
sir.
you. Appreciate
Congratulations. And also the executive director of the American Constitutional Rights Union. So he's got a lot going on. You can also find him on allenwest.substack.com as well. So welcome back to the show. It is wonderful to have you. If you are new to the show, please subscribe to the channel. Please, please. If you are watching any of the older podcasts, that's fantastic. If you want to find them, you go to youtube.com, search for Mary Walter Radio, and then click on the second tab in, which I think is the live tab. For some reason, the home, which is the first tab it goes to, has 4 random podcasts up there. I don't know why. But all the rest of them, including previous podcasts with this handsome gentleman, are under the live tab, as well as all the other guests that we've had. I would like to thank Michael and Bruce, some new subscribers. I think I thanked Margaret, but just in case, Margaret, thank you for subscribing as well. And as I said, please like the podcast. That would greatly help us. So, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Where have you been lately?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I was over in Normandy, the Fulton Cty Peninsula, for the 80th anniversary of D-Day, Operation Overlord, the greatest amphibious and airborne invasion that the world has ever known. And what an incredible experience it was to be there and walk. That's my little grandson coming, but it was a great experience to be there and walking in those footsteps and seeing some and talking to some of these gentlemen who had hit those beaches, Omaha, Utah, jumped in behind enemy lines with 101st, 82nd Airborne that scaled the cliffs of Pont du Hoc.
What an incredible experience that had to have been, especially I saw so many vets who were actually there 80 years ago when it happened. And what a blessing that they were able then to be back again. And I would assume it's something that they each tried to do at least once in their lifetime. What was that like?
Well, it's interesting when you stand there, you listen to them, you see them, and you get a chance, like I say, to have an interchange with them. I spoke with one veteran there at Utah Beach. He had served in the 4th Infantry Division. I served in the 4th Infantry Division, went to combat with that unit in Iraq. And they're just still, after all these years, so humble, so unassuming. We just did what our country asked us to do. And when you think about the fact that a lot of those young men lied about their age so that they could go. I mean, they did not want to be left behind. They had this sense of duty and honor and country and the call to service, regardless of the sacrifices, commitment. And when you're standing there on these beaches and you look back toward, the high ground or, where they had to go for their objectives, just incredible that, when those ramps went down, the type of machine gun fire that they had to face. And when you are there on the ground, the concave shape of the beach means that they could, get hit with interlocking fires from the left flank, from the right flank, from the front. It was like going into hell. It was like going into an incredible crossfire. But they were determined and they continued on. But the thing that really, and my wife went with me, my wife Angela, and 2 of our best friends, Steve Nesbitt and Lauren Rowe.
There she is, right there.
Now, and that picture is from my first jump. I just turned in my parachute, and that was at Batterie d'Azeville, which was very close to St. Mary Église. And that was one of the drop zone areas where our paratroopers came in, and they ended up taking out some of the German heavy artillery guns that were firing back onto could fire back onto the beach. And when you're there in that aircraft, which were the actual C-47 aircraft that they jumped out of 80 years ago, you hook up on the same static line that they jumped and hooked up on 80 years ago. Um, I jumped in the broad daylight. They jumped at 2:30 in the morning, and there was all kind of tracer fire going up after them. You go to a place like St. Mary Glees, where if those of you in the audience have seen the movie The Longest Day with John Wayne and everyone, that was the place where they actually put the paratroopers out right over the town square, right on top of the Germans. And a lot of them were killed before their feet even hit the ground. And still today, they have the model of a paratrooper hanging from the steeple there at the church in St. Mary Glees,
That's
just as
right.
what happened years ago. So
That's right.
yeah, the people were just phenomenal, Mary. I mean, every single town was having a celebration. I'm not just talking about on June the 6th. I'm talking about the entire week. People were dressed in period uniforms. Women were dressed in period dresses and their hair done as if they were in the 1940s. Little children were dressed as American soldiers. They will never forget. And the sad thing is that, when I think about our country, we're not showing the same reverence that
No.
those people are showing because they know what happened 80 years ago and the liberation of them from evil and tyranny.
Yeah, so many questions, and I know the viewers are going to have questions as well. So let's get it. Where are we? Bill Haynes says hi, Queen and Lieutenant Colonel West. Ron and the cat checking in. Watching Your Back is here says, "Hey, Queen. Hey, everybody." And I think Watching Your Back is a military guy, so he has
Got your
served as
six.
well.
That's what we call it.
That's right. Scott says, "Cool." And Mary, Colonel, everyone. Richard, hello from the Chicago burbs. Shelly, you both are such wonderful people. Aw, thank
That's very
you.
kind. Thank
I'm
you.
riding his coattails totally. Uh, Scott says hello. Um, 4 random podcasts. It must be, yeah. So when you go to Mary Welter Radio, YouTube Mary Welter Radio, the first tab is the homepage, and there's just like 4 random podcasts there. I have no idea why, and they're not with the other podcasts. So click the next tab over, and that's where they all are.
Okay.
So we'll blame the Russians. Richard, I'm still new, my second live viewing of this fine show. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Way to go, Richard.
It's Alan West, then X. Yes, on X. Yes.
Mhm.
Alan. You'll have a good time here, Richard. Mary's great and as always has a great program. Thank you. Hermit Sal loves your photo. By the way,
Mhm.
I noticed you still fit in your uniform, or was that a replica of what they wore in World War II?
That was a replica of the 1942 uniform, and I still fit pretty good in the old baggy pants paratrooper uniform. And but again, it was just an honor to
Yeah.
don their uniforms and their patches and everything. And the people would see you and know that you were an American, and they were just so thankful. One of the fun things was that at that drop zone, after I walked off, I had, a little roll of American, sticky flags. And, I came up and the first couple of kids, I put a sticky flag on them. And I just got surrounded after that by other kids and adults and everything. But again, it just brought tears to my eyes, the love that they had and the admiration and, how they felt about what our men had done for them all those years ago.
It was interesting when you were telling your story. Oh, wait, well, there's a question here from Watching Your Back.
Mhm.
Lieutenant Colonel West, did you get a chance to visit the surrounding area like the Pegasus Bridge?
No, I did not get a chance to go down the Pegasus Bridge. And what he is talking about, that was the British glider paratroopers. They had to go in and hold Pegasus Bridge, and their orders were hold until relieved. And that's a very tough mission because, they had to wait for the landings, which occurred at 6:30 in the morning. The British had, and the Commonwealth forces, Canadians, had Gold, Sword, and Juno beaches, and they had to fight through to get into Pegasus Bridge. That was a very important point because you had to get the armor in. But like I said, I was mostly in the American sector at Omaha Beach, and then up to Utah Beach, and in between was Pont du Hoc, which were the cliffs that the Rangers scaled. And then I went all through the area where the 82nd and the 101st had dropped into, and visited a lot of those towns. But I want to share a real, unique story with you, because initially, while I was there, because you're jumping and everything, I was staying with the round canopy parachuting team. We had a little, it wasn't a villa, it was more like a hostel where a bunch of us, slept around. And one thing about soldiers, no matter what their age, they still snore loudly. And so that was very, very, very fun experience to listen to 8 or 9 different men and their tones of snoring. But my wife and my friends were staying in a different little village not too far away. And my last 2 nights I got to, since I was finished jumping, I got to go and stay with them. Well, the little village that they were staying in was called Tocqueville. And when I went into the old dairy farm where they were staying, which had been remodeled into a beautiful little hotel, I saw a picture of Alexis de Tocqueville. And if you don't know
I
who
was going to
Alexis,
say,
yes,
yeah, I was going to ask you. I sneezed, so sorry, my
no,
microphone
no
was off.
problem.
But I was going to say, that wasn't he a writer, right? Back in
The
like the
Alexis de
1700s,
Tocqueville,
right?
who wrote Democracy in America in the
Yes.
30s. And so they were actually, and they didn't realize it, they were actually staying in Alexis de Tocqueville's little village. And so
Wow.
I asked the keeper of the hotel, I said, "Is this really de Tocqueville?" She said, "Yes. I mean, he's buried right there in the chapel cemetery, and his chateau is just right up the street, 5 minutes away." And so we got a chance to go and stand outside of the Alexis de Tocqueville chateau. And I did a little quick video, because how interesting it was to have this young man who came to America to see what made America so unique, what made America so great. And please read the book, or at least read some of the quotes that he had about America, because they're pretty prescient to where we are today. And then 80 some odd years, after that invasion, they are going in and liberating the town of the young Frenchman that came and was just so astonished at the American experiment. So please pick up the book, Democracy in America. It's one of my favorite books. It really does provide insights of where we were and who we were and our fundamentals. And we've got to get back to that.
Yes. Yeah. No, it is a great read. It's a great read. Lots of questions for you.
Okay.
So, Sal here says that was paratrooper John Steele who was hanging from that steeple. Tell the story and why they still have that paratrooper hanging from the steeple.
Well, it's just an incredible story, because, like I said, there are a lot of missed drop zones. I mean, the pilots there in those C-47s, I mean, they saw other aircraft get hit by the flak and the gunfire coming up, the AAA anti-aircraft guns that were coming up at them, and so a lot of them did not, drop the paratroopers where they were supposed to be. And so in St. Mary Glees, the paratroopers were actually dropped on the town. And many of them were coming down in the town square, and that's where the Germans were, and a lot of them were killed. But Mr. Steele, somehow his parachute got hung up on the steeple there, and he was shot at. But if you go back and remember, they shot the soles off his boots, and he survived. But it's just an incredible story, and they still remember him. And it's almost as if they revere him as still looking out over St. Mary Glees. And that was the town where they had this beautiful parade for all of the old veterans coming through.
Oh, yes,
And
I saw that.
yeah, it was just an eruption like you cannot believe there, when the first vehicle, and there was one veteran that stood up, and I mean, he was all fire and brimstone. And remember, the youngest is like 96, 97, and he started shouting, "Viva la France, Viva la France," and the crowd went absolutely nuts. But it was just a great time to be there.
Yeah. Hermit Sal says that Tocqueville also wrote about the French Revolution as
Hmm.
well. Yes.
Yes.
I want to go into your jumping, so I'm going to go into it, and I want to talk about those the veterans who went. I have an itch here. The veterans who went, because one of them jumped at the age of 97. I saw. He
Yeah.
had someone, was attached to an
Yeah.
instructor, but he
Tandem.
still jumped at 97 years old.
Yeah, it's a tandem jump, and still, that's pretty exciting. Pretty
Yeah.
hairy, because that's a free fall jump at tandem, and that's normally about 10,000 feet. Our jump altitude, because we had about 4 or 5 C-47 aircraft coming along in what we call a mass drop. We were about 1,250 feet, but still, it's just an incredible experience. And when you go through your count and your parachute opens up and you're able to, check your parachute, everything's good to go. And you look down to these drop zones and you see people all around it, because folks came out in mass to see this. And it's something that's done every year, but it is new to them every year. And again, this was my very first time going to Normandy, and to get the opportunity to jump twice, that's the bucket list of all bucket lists. And my wife, who, her dad served 24 years in the United States Army, 2 combat tours of Vietnam. She was so touched. She was so moved that, she said, we're bringing the whole family back next year. So as a good husband, I went north and south and said, yes, dear, we'll figure it out. We'll get the whole family back over here next year.
No, that's wonderful. Greg, we want to know, how many jumps did you make? You said you made 2, but
Yep.
please tell me there were some practice jumps.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I'm 63, and the last time I had jumped from an aircraft was 22 years ago in 2002. So I had to go back to airborne refresher course, even though I'm a master rated Army parachutist and Navy Marine Corps rated parachutist. And so down in Palatka, Florida, Palatka, Florida, that is the home of the Round Canopy parachuting team. And so I met the head of that organization last December. He invited me to join, and I was like, absolutely, I'm in. And so I had to go back down there and go through all of that training. And it was a little bit difficult on the old body doing 5 jumps in 4 days, but I got through it, and that got me cleared to go over to Normandy. So, and please go to the website, Round Canopy Parachuting Team USA. And if you'd like to join us and be back over there with us for the 81st, or if you like to go to Operation Market Garden, which was in the Netherlands, that was the largest airborne operation in the history of mankind. And that was the movie A Bridge Too Far. Some
Oh,
of y'all
yeah.
that remember that. So they also have trips to go up there. So, and I'll be going back next March because they want me to go back through Jump Master Refresher, so I can actually be the guy that is, checking out parachutes and inspecting them and putting jumpers out of the aircraft.
So you're the important guy then. If you don't say
Yeah.
go, you're the guy who stands there and
Yeah.
goes, go, go,
Yep.
go,
I'm the guy
right?
that says go. Now, actually, in the combat jump, the jump master looks back and says, "Follow me." He's the first one to go.
Okay. Well, doesn't he have to make sure everybody gets off the plane?
Well, yes, but you have a stick pusher. But in the
Wait,
airborne
a
leaders,
stick pusher? Is that a guy with a stick who pushes you all out of the plane?
now that's the big, strong, tough guy to make sure everybody else is going to go.
But he gets to stay behind.
No, he jumps.
Oh, he
But
does?
yeah,
Okay.
but that's what we
Okay.
call a stick pusher. I mean, that's your
Okay.
responsibility. You just keep that stick going.
Uh, I do not know what happened.
It was that Russian misinformation, disinformation.
All of a sudden I was gone, and now there's 3 of me waiting to get in. How weird is that?
I can't deal with 3 queens unless I was playing poker. I guess that's
Speaking of the Queen, hello, Zach, our number 1 fan, Zach. Zach loves the show. He's amazing. So Scott Wagner here, I clicked on that, and that's where we all went. I was gone all of a sudden. He went for a tandem jump. He said we went up to 10,000 feet and jumped. It was a lot of fun.
yeah.
No, I don't think it's for everybody.
Hey, folks, how many of you all would like to see the Queen jump
No,
out of an airplane? I mean,
nope.
we can get the GoPro thing going, and we can make it happen. So
Hmm.
I think
No,
that
you
we
can't.
should I
No, you
think we
can't.
should get the Queen down to Palatka,
Nope.
Florida next
Nope.
March, and she should do a live podcast from the flight line as we watch paratroopers go through their training and start to do their jumps. And
Nope.
I think that we should get Mary Walter attached to one of those really cool skydiving type of guys, and
Mm-hmm.
hear
Mm-mm.
her go, ah!
Nope. Nope.
Yes,
Not
Mary.
happening.
I
Nope.
think you're going to get outvoted. I think that your audience is going to
You
vote.
you can vote whatever you want.
Oh, you don't believe in democracy? I mean,
No, I don't. We're a representative republic. Ha!
now we're a representative democracy. We're a constitutional republic, but you're a tyrant.
I am. I am a tyrant when it comes to jumping out of planes. I'm not doing it. No, I put my foot down.
Well, you still need to
I,
come down, and you can cover it.
I could watch it. I'd be happy to
Yes,
watch and just ask, why
we'll
are you
put you
jumping out of the
inside. We'll
plane?
put you inside the airplane, and you can take all kind of video.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not, I'm not
You stay
not
in the
jumping out of
airplane.
it.
You stay in it. Okay.
I can stay in the airplane. That I could do. But
Okay.
the door open on the plane, I'd be like, could somebody please close that? Could somebody close the door?
There
Close
is
the
no
door.
door. There is no door.
Oh, hell no. You want me to go up in a plane with no door? Get the hell out of here. What
Well,
is
that's
wrong
what
with
we want you
you?
to do. We want you to jump, but you're telling you
No,
won't get.
honey, I want to win the lottery. I think at the end of the day, we're both going to be disappointed.
But you just stay on the airplane. You sit back toward
There's
the.
no door on the
You're
airplane.
not going to fall out. There's a seatbelt.
No.
Everybody,
Sure, I'll be
let's
there. We'll
see. How
pick a
many
date.
thumbs up do we have? How many thumbs up do we have out there
No,
that
don't
Mary Walt?
they can all vote they want to, but like I said, as you said, this is a dictatorship, and I get double the votes of everybody else. You know what? I'm gonna let Georgia count the votes for me. Porchview Farm says I'm late. What a wonderful guest! What an honor for us, Mary. This is a great question, and I had written this down.
Okay.
Watching your backs is called support. Tech support's out of the house right now, so I don't have tech support. Sorry, watching. Um, I have this as a question to ask you. So Hermit Sal says, "Sir, do you think today's military could take on a similar endeavor? It seems that while you know who are improving their military skills, we seem to be improving our social and DEI skills." And I was going to ask you about that. Could today's Army, today's military, Air Force, the whole bit, could we pull off the same maneuver today?
No, no, absolutely not. I think we all know that. The Heritage Foundation released their study on military readiness index, and we are woefully capable of doing what they did 80 years ago. As a matter of fact, China has a bigger surface warfare fleet navy than we have. And you can talk about, technology and capability, but I got to tell you something. Quantity has a quality all itself. And
Hmm.
one of the things about fighting a battle, when you're doing an offensive operation, you want to outnumber your opponent 3-1, and we just don't have that capability and capacity right now. Look, we know we don't have enough 155 millimeter artillery shells, and you're right. We're more so focused on gender dysphoria and DEI and all of these other things, and Pride Month and what have you, than to be focused on the readiness and capability and capacity. And I think everyone knows that we're suffering as far as our recruiting and retention of our military, because who wants to join the military when the commander in chief is watching his watch? When you have men and women coming home for their last duty station because of the fateful decisions that you made. So things will have to change on November the 5th if you want a better and a strong, restored military capability and capacity. Remember what Ronald Reagan said, peace through strength, and we're not there, and that's why we see so much chaos across the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are we? Okay, here we go. The Queen needs to make a jump. You know what? Screw you. Um,
He said he'd watch your
Sal,
back.
Sal said, yeah, he'll watch my back as I jump out of the plane. No,
No,
thank
you
you.
stay on the airplane. I will make sure
Yeah.
you stay on the airplane. You can watch me
Her,
jump. You watch me
uh,
jump.
see, now that I would do. Airborne royalty. She would make an excellent airborne ranger. I came this close to joining the military
See?
after high school. They're calling your house all the time.
Mhm.
And my mother was like, no. And my dad's first generation American, so we were all going to college. That was the thing. We were all going. You could choose where you wanted to go, but you were going. And I was going to study, I wanted to study languages because I love languages. So the
Mhm.
military really wanted me.
Oh yeah.
And I applied for the CIA when I got out of college and I got rejected. To this day, I don't know why, but I did. I don't know. But I don't know. Something in my past by the time I got out of college, that was a no mas on that one. They did not want me. But I don't think I would have been good in the military. I'm very regimented. So that part of it, I'm very good.
Yep.
But I don't do stupid stuff just because somebody told me to. I really take offense at that. So I can, and I worked a lot with the military during let's see, it must have been one of the second Gulf War, first Gulf War. I was
Mhm.
on the radio,
Mhm.
and we had a group of National Guard men and women who were from California who were at Fort Dix,
Yeah.
and they wanted to get home for Christmas. And Schwarzenegger, I think, was the governor at the time, and they ran out of money, and they couldn't bring them home
Mm.
and then get them back by the time they were deploying, like just after, but or just around New Year. So they couldn't get
Mhm.
them home and back. They didn't have any money. So one of my friends was from New Jersey who was in that group that was deploying with the group from California and said, "Hey, can you do something?" So the station let me get on the air, and we raised enough money. I had FedEx trying to deadhead them from here to
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
whatever. So they were very nice, and they invited me to their deployment and everything. And oh my God, you need a bunch of soccer moms to run the military. That's all I'm going to say, because they were so late. They couldn't load a bus. My husband and I were sitting on the bus to go from where we started to where we needed to be. And he and I were the only two people on the bus. Like, where is everybody? I don't know where everybody was. They were doing this, they were doing that, they were all over the place. It's hurry up and wait. One time they were coming home and we were doing the group I worked with, we did a homecoming.
Yeah.
So we would get all these people to donate food and we did all this stuff. They were 8 hours late. I'm like, the flight time from Germany to the United States. How are you 8 hours behind? Like, how do you not know that? I don't understand how you could possibly be 8 hours behind. So it would drive me, the inefficiency would drive me absolutely back crap crazy. And I would have been thrown out, I'm sure.
No, you wouldn't have been. You just
No,
would
it's true.
have
They're desperate, but
a
they're
lot of
desperate, but
counseling
still.
letters. There would have been a lot of counseling letters.
Yes, because I want to be on time. And in my world, there is no excuse for poor planning. There's just not. There's no excuse for poor planning.
I agree. So you're
And the
gonna come down
military
and
is
watch me
nothing.
jump. So you're gonna come
It's
down.
just, what
You're gonna
did you
come
just
down.
say about jumping?
You're gonna come down and watch me jump. You're gonna sit in the aircraft and watch me jump.
That has nothing to do with the poor planning in the military.
No, it's great planning. That's what you'll get to see.
Yeah, you'll be 8 hours late. I'll be like, oh, he hasn't jumped yet.
No, we're not gonna be 8 hours late because the plane comes right there at the hangar. We jump on, we go up, we fly around one racetrack, and boom, we're out of the airplane.
No, I don't know. I don't know. Tech support would not do it. Tech support is a pilot and is very afraid. He's very afraid of heights. Very afraid of
The
heights.
plane's on the ground when you get on it.
I know. Well, he flies. I've been flying with him. I'm not a big fan of the small planes either. Not a big fan of flying in the small planes.
It's not a small plane. It has 26 paratroopers on it.
So you don't need my company. Porchview Farm says my uncles and cousins would jump at family gatherings from windows or airplanes. My oldest uncle would take them up and they would jump. It was so fun. My cousins jumped into Panama.
Oh,
Did
wow.
you ever jump, Porchview, or did you just watch everybody else jump? And what a weird family you come from.
She
Bill
didn't
says
mean
jump. Bill says jump, Mary, jump. Sal says put Mary in the co-pilot seat of a glider. Are you trying to kill me?
that would be cool. As long as the ground isn't wet and the glider continues to go. Actually, I think it was the assistant division commander of the 101st Airborne Division. I think so. Yeah, he died in a glider accident. It was just too top heavy and yeah, well, stuff
Oops and
happens.
oops. It was too top heavy. Oops. Who loaded that thing up and didn't realize that it was too top heavy
The
and
general,
oops. See? It's the planning. There's no
no,
excuse for this.
no, it's all good.
No, he's dead. That's pretty much not all good.
Well, that was 80 years ago. We've
We've
learned.
gotten the math down since then.
Yeah.
Um, Scott said he's done approximately 10 jumps total, and the toughest part is they open the door and you step out onto the step if they've got one, I guess, and then you hold on to the strut of the airplane wing.
Yeah.
I don't even do roller coasters, so there's just no way.
It's an
I'm,
incredible feeling.
you know what? So is living. Sal says we specialize in non-military readiness. God
That
help us.
that is true. I mean, when you look at this administration and the policies they have implemented, and understand the current Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, he was a colonel at Fort Bragg in the 82nd Airborne Division when I was a major, and I looked up to the guy, but I couldn't tell you what happened to him, other than the fact that when you start to rise in the ranks of as a general officer, lots,
Yeah,
those promotions are political appointments. And a lot of times these guys play the political game to get that next star. And I think that's what you see has happened to him.
it's really sad. It shouldn't be. Our military shouldn't be political, obviously, but clearly it is. Scott said there's an umbilical cord jump. They tie the one end of the cord to the plane and the other end on your chute, and it pulls when you jump automatically.
That's called static line jumping. That's what I've done. I have 80 static line jumps. I've never done free fall. And so what ends up happening, you have the static line that is attached to your parachute, and then you have the static line snap hook, and that's what you hook onto the static line in the aircraft. And so when you jump out, that static line extends and it pulls your parachute out. And so it's pretty fail safe.
Pretty,
Yeah, it's pretty. It's very pretty.
as long as somebody ties the knot right.
Well, that's where a guy like me comes in as a jump master, make sure that the knot and all those things that is packed correctly and is tied right.
Right. The best I could probably do is maybe zip lining. That's about as far as I'm going.
But I just told you, all you have to do is sit on the airplane, watch me jump.
All right, I'll sit and watch you jump, but that's as far as I'm going. And it can't be a really small plane. Chris Christie says jumping out would be the easiest part of riding in a C-130.
Yeah, no kidding. I've seen a lot of barfing in a C-130. It's not pretty. That's a rough aircraft, especially when they
I
start to do the nap of the earth navigation. They follow yeah.
See, that's my problem. I get very motion sick. I can't ride backwards like on the train. I get seasick. If the
But that's why
plane
the
starts,
door is open. See, the door is open so you get fresh air.
if you think I'm sticking my head out of an open plane door
You
to
don't have to stick your
puke,
head. It's the air, the fresh air comes
but
in.
it's the motion. It's not the fresh air. It's the
It's a
motion.
very
I'm
stable
not on a
airplane.
boat.
It's a very
Yeah, but
stable airplane. You're not jumping C-130. You're doing nice stable flight.
all right. Please check out military historical tours based out of Woodbridge, Virginia. They give great tours of places like Normandy.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
and
fun
I
thing.
would also recommend folks please go and visit the National Museum of the United States Army that's right there at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, just near Washington, D.C. And it's an incredible museum.
Fort Belvoir is Virginia or Maryland? Virginia?
Virginia, yeah, Fort
Vir-
Belvoir, Virginia. Yeah,
Yeah,
Fort Meade is in Maryland, Fort Meade.
Maryland. Okay. There's a lot of them in that area,
Yes, there
obviously.
are.
Scott, I've known someone apply for the CIA and was rejected because they were too tall. They'd be too recognizable. Pretty sure that's not why I was rejected. I'm a big whole 5'7". That's it. Porchview did jump. She jumped when I was 11 with my dad. See, at 11 years old, you're you're too young to understand death. So, you know,
You almost said too stupid.
I
You
did.
caught yourself. Yeah, I saw you. You caught yourself. That's
You
like a
know me
check
too
swing.
well.
It's like a check swing in baseball.
All right, this is our last podcast we're doing. You know me too well. My dad was Navy Air during Korea in the experimental helicopter division. My eldest uncle was Air Force. Wow.
Yeah, and
So,
that's what we got to get back to is,
yes.
we have to continue to tell the stories in our families, as dads and granddads or grandmas and talk about our service and our sacrifice and make sure that the legacy and those who went before us, they're not forgotten. It was not in vain. And I think that's what we're missing. And that's what I saw being over there in Normandy was that these people are committed to make sure that their children do not forget. That's the only way that you continue to have a celebration like what you saw, the 80th anniversary, where the place is jam packed. I mean, you too could not get as many people into Normandy as what I saw there.
So, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. I saw something where it was all high school kids or school age children, and they were applauding these veterans, these elder veterans, as they came into some kind of stadium or something. It was, or maybe it was a soccer field. But anyway, it was a big. It was at night. Anyway, I was really impressed because it was all school children.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, they probably were meant to go, they had to go for school. But it struck me because in this country, 80 years down the road, heck, it's not even how many years from 9/11, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And people would be saying, oh, it's insensitive. Your people who are German would feel of German descent would feel ostracized,
Yeah.
and they would have all these excuses of why we can't do it, and all the reasons as to why Americans are terrible, horrible people.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know how we get back to, like, right now patriotism's bad, love of country is bad, you're a
Mhm.
nationalist. If you're Christian and you love this country, you're a Christian nationalist, and that's a
Oh yeah.
terrible, horrible thing.
Yeah.
So when you have the media complex, when you have the military, when you have the CIA, FBI, DOJ, all colluding and really running the country as an unelected fourth branch of government,
Mhm.
and any kind of patriotism, anything along those lines is now bad. How do you, I don't know how you get back to where we started.
It starts at the top, it starts at the top and also starts at the bottom. At the top, it starts with someone that's going to be a president that represents that. When you go back and you look at Ronald Reagan's speech at the 40th anniversary of D-Day, when he stood there and talked about the boys of Pont du Hoc, and many of them were still alive at the time. But the other thing is, I articulated, we've got to do it in our houses, in our homes. Joshua said, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Well, we got to start telling those stories in our home so that when our kids go out and they start to hear all this garbage from teachers and from college professors, they realize, no, this is not what my mommy and my daddy taught me. My dad challenged me to be the first officer in our family when I was 15 years of age. And he told me that there was no greater honor than to wear the uniform in the United States of America. And he was a World War II veteran. And you think about, here's a black man from the South who went away to fight for a country that did not see him as equal to other men, but yet he held no animus or whatsoever. He thought it was a true pride and an honor. And to have a godfather who was a Tuskegee Airman, William Sticky Jackson. I mean, the stories that he told me about the perseverance and about those men who flew those aircraft, that's what inspires future generations. So we have got a lot to do, because one of the things, Mary, that really, angered me, the Monday or Tuesday after I got back from Normandy, I saw those protests up in New York City, and I actually saw a clip of someone saying that they should have allowed Hitler to finish the job.
Yeah.
And I think about, now, I just came from a place where there are 10,000, stars of David and crosses of American men that did not want Hitler to finish the job. I was just there seeing American men who are still alive that did not allow Hitler to finish the job. But yet, how in 80 years did we get to this point? And it's because we have got to get back into our systems of education. We've got to get back into our communities. Our churches need to do a better job. But we've got to restore American principled leadership. And I think that's the most important thing in this election cycle.
And I agree with you, but when you have the unelected bureaucrats and the deep swamp
You
who
got it. You got to
are
under.
already, how do you get rid of them? Like, you just fire everybody?
Well, I think that's something that Donald Trump has learned. It's not just about having a cabinet head and the under deputy secretary grand poobah. You got to go many tiers deep, and you got to send a clear message that you're not going to allow people that, as you said, unelected bureaucrats to be in charge of this country. And I think we got to get back to constitutional governance. And there's a lot of agencies there in the federal government and even in some of the state levels that they're not constitutional. And we need to just say bye-bye.
Yeah, well, they're gearing up already to thwart Trump, to stop Trump, seeing that he's probably going to win. Which, by the way, I don't buy that, but we'll talk about that later. I want to go also back to one of the things that I had read, that there is a town that the Allies bombed because of the Germans that were in that town, and it reminded me very much of what's happening in Gaza, where you have Hamas, see, in between the civilians, and commandeering their homes and staying. This is pretty much the same thing happened, but those people came out and cheered the Americans, even though we were the ones who bombed them.
Yeah, because they did not want to live under that yoke of tyranny and evil of
Yeah,
Adolf Hitler. Remember, we firebombed Dresden.
yeah,
I mean, so that's what total war is. And so these people that are out there cheering and supporting Hamas, first of all, that's a felony offense. If you're going to be advocating and cheering, providing material support and comfort and aid to an Islamic terrorist organization, if you're not an American, you should be deported when you stand out and you say, I'm for Hamas or I am Hamas. But Hamas is an Islamic terrorist organization, a non-uniform, belligerent, non-state belligerent operating on a battlefield. Gaza is governed by a terrorist organization that
yes,
attacked a sovereign, recognized nation. That sovereign recognized nation has every right to go back at them and crush them and make sure that they are not to remain in power. That's what we did with Nazi Germany. That's what we did with Imperial Japan. That's what we did with fascist Italy. It was total war. And when you fight half measure war, then you get half measure results.
right.
And that's why we still have DMZs or things where people still have to stand on freedom's ramparts and protecting against it. We have to get a mentality of crushing evil. And after 9/11, I don't recall Prime Minister Netanyahu, chastising America about you should go easy on the Taliban. You shouldn't really want to defeat Al Qaeda. Why would you shoot Osama bin Laden? No, I think everybody was glad to see the United States of America come down and crush Islamic terrorists. And so, why would we want them to put their foot off the pedal? Especially now, remember, we just caught 8 Islamic terrorists aligned with
Yes,
ISIS from Tajikistan, just north of Afghanistan. We just recently had 3 or 4 Syrian illegal immigrants who tried to drive a truck onto Marine Corps base Quantico. So it is happening all over again. And yet
yep,
we have people in our streets carrying the banner of a terrorist organization. Let me tell you something, that's got to be shut down. That is a real and
yep.
true insurrection when you're talking about death to America.
Yes, very well said. And I think I'm applauding you right now, as I think others are as well. Gregory has a question for you. He said, "Oh, Suze loves Jeffy is here, and she's sorry for being late." She says, and she loves you. Gregory says, "Colonel, I read somewhere that you were, quote, the Lawrence of Arabia of Afghanistan. Is this a mischaracterization, or is it true?"
No, I was never in a white robe or anything like that, and so I wouldn't look good in that getup. But I don't know where you got that one from, but that's pretty interesting characterization to me. But no, I would not be known as a Lawrence of Arabia. Although I did spend 2.5 years in Afghanistan, and it was really a special honor to try to do the best that I could with helping and training the Afghan National Army down in southern Afghanistan in the home area of the Taliban, which is Kandahar province.
I would have loved to see you. You would be a little conspicuous because you're a very big guy. Like, you're tall, you're a big man, and in the
No,
white
I'm not
robe.
really. I'm just 5'9". I'm not really that tall. I mean, I just project it. But it's always funny. It's always funny, Mary, when people see you in person. They're like, "Oh, I thought you were taller," and I was like, "Yeah." And I guess I could shoot balls of fire from the arse, like William Wallace said in Braveheart. No, I'm just a compact little guy and just 5'9". So it's not
Larger than life.
it's not about the size of the dog in the fight. It's about the size of the fight in the dog.
Oh, look at that. We should put that on a shirt. Hermit Sal, Mary and Colonel S. It seems as if other nations say, lest we forget. Here in America, it seems to be lest we remember.
That's a great point. I mean, you think about next month, we're going to have, the 248th remembrance of our independence. But yet we have people that are telling us that America was founded in 1619. So
Right.
you're absolutely correct in that we are working against a leftist establishment that is trying to completely, as they said, fundamentally transform America, erase all of our history. So, I mean, we got all of these weird sexual deviants and perverts running around talking about this is June Pride Month and everything. June should be D-Day month. And
Yes.
just last week, the 14th of June, two things: it's Flag Day, and it was the 249th Army birthday.
Army
So
birthday.
that's what we should be remembering in the month of June, not a bunch of wackos that are running around in bondage and puppy dog masks and all this other kind of crap. But this is what the left has done. And again, trying to create this deviancy. And last time I checked, if you were presenting your child in front of these sexual deviants and perverts, drag queens, whatever, that's called contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
Oh, no, no.
And when folks are saying, well, Colonel, you should just allow the parents to decide what they want to do with their child. Okay. So the parent decides that they want their kid to, take a toke of a marijuana cigarette. Or the parents decide that, I want my child to get a shot of whiskey. Remember this whole thing about gender mutilation, because there's no gender affirming care. Your DNA doesn't change. You're just mutilating your body. Kids, minors cannot go out and get a tattoo. I mean,
Right. Right.
tattoo artists will lose their
Right.
license if they tattoo someone that is younger than the age of 18. That's why you have to sign a form. I know I have tattoos, but yet we're trying to say that we can lop off healthy body parts of our kids. So, all of these things that we are quote unquote celebrating and quote unquote taking pride in, we are replacing the things that we should take pride in. And you just talked about, Mary, our Americanism, our patriotism, the things that Tocqueville wrote about in the book Democracy in America. And we got to restore that.
Yes, absolutely. But I will say to you, I think, and people can agree or disagree with me, but I think the pendulum's starting to swing back the other way a
It
little
is.
bit. It's starting because you always push too far. It's got to go back the other way. You saw those young boys who were protecting the American flag on
In
the
North
University
Carolina.
of South, you're right, North Carolina or South Carolina?
It was North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
North Carolina. Okay, Chapel Hill, yeah, who were out there, and I think what has happened is that we have demonized young white men in this country.
Black men
They're
too.
Yeah, black men too, and especially if they start voting for Trump, then they're out. There goes their privilege card. They're going to be done.
Yeah.
But young men, they're being told that just being a boy. I grew up with all brothers. I know what being a boy is. They're obnoxious. They do stupid stuff. That's what boys do. They do
Yeah.
stuff, and I would say like, why are you doing that? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, mom's going to beat you. I know, and then they just continue doing what they're doing. Boys and girls are different. They're just different. But we've demonized normal male behavior,
Yeah, you're right.
right?
It's
Right?
toxic
Toxic.
masculinity.
Exactly. And let me tell you, sir, you are quite toxic. I just want to let you know.
Well, I
Uh,
think. And
exactly.
again, the question that you asked, would we be able to do a D-Day today? Remember, these were hard men. These were men.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad was born in 1920. They grew up through the Depression. I mean, they were combat ready before they even became combat ready. They were rough and tumble. And so, yeah, when I sit around and look at these little snowflakes that we are, raising today who cry because they lose cell phone coverage, no, I mean, it would be very difficult. And, there's this question about, how are we training our young men and women in our military? And I think that we should have separate training. We should not have men and women together. We should be training guys a little bit tougher and a little bit harder because that's their composition. And hopefully we can get back to that. That has nothing to do with gender equality, because let me tell you something. In combat, a bullet don't care about your gender. It's going to hit you. It's going to rip through you. And so we have got to get back to those hard truths, because China is not talking about gender dysphoria. Russia is not talking about equity. Iran is not talking about diversity. North Korea
Yeah.
is not talking about inclusion. So we got to stop this nonsense.
Agree 100%. And we're going to get to something that you just said. But first, Sue's Love Jeffy says, you look like a big guy. See? Larger than life. Poetry said, I watched as much of the 80th as possible. It was amazing. I cry every time I think of these veterans we will no longer have. The war is not taught. It's very true. Sal says the problem is that if we return to the things you say, those in office fear being primaried and not being reelected, and that's the problem. It's all about keeping the money flowing. Follow the money.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Scott says when we were talking about Hamas and Gaza, the description I heard of was that Hamas is not anything but a political party. Like we have political parties here in the United States. It's not really anything other than that, they said. But that's not true. I
No.
mean, it is a political party, right? It's a political party, but it's a political party that believes in, you know, throwing gay people off roofs,
Yeah.
and which I love, Queers for Palestine. That is one of one of the funny. This is why we can't win a war, because we're beyond stupid. We are ignorant, stupid. We
Mhm.
don't know anything outside of our own tiny little world now.
Yeah,
Um,
I would challenge anyone that is listening in tonight. It's open source. Pull down the charter of Hamas, and it tells you exactly who they are and what they want to do. They were founded. This is a wing of the Muslim Brotherhood, and it is all about the eradication, elimination, and extermination of not just the state of Israel, but Jews everywhere. That's what
yep,
Hamas stands for.
yep. Well, Bill, I love he says, Lieutenant Colonel West, I love your views, and I like that you are educating us tonight.
Doing my
That's right.
best.
Now, Tax USA, we need to go back to basics. 1776, the founders were facing certain death and prevailed. We need to focus on the self-evident truths.
Mhm.
Sal, the Tuskegee Airmen starring Lawrence Fishburne is a fine movie, and Tuskegee Airmen Legacy of Courage on the Military History Channel is a fine series. Suze says it does seem to be swinging back slowly, but it is for sure. I think so. I think
Yeah.
you're seeing young people swinging to Trump. Now, part of that I think is the influence of social media, and I want to be hip and I want to be cool. And if you want to be a rebel, what do?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't vote for the establishment, you vote for Trump. Trump's the ultimate rebel. Trump's the ultimate finger in the eye of the establishment.
Mhm.
So I think that's part of it. I don't think that they are as educated as they think they are. And listen, I'll take the vote though.
I will take the vote. But you're also seeing that pendulum swing in Europe. I mean, look at some of the recent
Yes.
elections. Okay, so it is not just a phenomenon that we're seeing here in America. It's happening across the globe.
I think they're a little bit further down the road than we are, because they got hit. They're a smaller country that got hit with a ton of immigration, and those countries got overwhelmed to a much larger degree than we do here. They dissipate, so you can take in 8 million people into the country illegally, and they dissipate. They're not in your backyard. In Hungary and Italy and Poland and Germany and France and Spain, all these countries that had all of these elections, and I think England's is this week. England's
Yeah, it's
elections
coming up
this week.
this week or next week. Yeah, same
Yeah.
thing.
And you're going to see the same thing there as well, where people are voting as the populist vote. And these are people who are saying enough is enough. And I think it'll happen here. I don't know if our elections are as free and fair as theirs are. I
We're
question
going to
that.
work on that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that coming up. Herman Sal says, Colonel, didn't VC women get the same training as VC males, or was it unique to Vietnam?
Well, I think that when you start to look at insurgency operations, that's a little bit different. Or when you look at a country like Israel, where everyone, man, women, men and women, they understand that they have to fight for the freedom and liberty and the survival of their nation. We're a little bit insulated here in the United States of America. We don't have that same sense of urgency. But yes, I mean, there were VC women that were very tough, very hard, but that was an upbringing. And I don't think we have that same upbringing here in America.
No, I agree. Now Tax says, I've long thought a religion that charters to convert or kill you is not a religion. It's a political party and an enemy to everyone.
It's a theocratic political construct. That's really the best way to describe what Islam is, because it is a theocracy that controls everything about your life, and then it is also a political system as well. That's where you get Sharia law, and so when you think about it, it is Sharia law and what you see happening in certain places over in Europe. I mean, they have it in France. I mean, we talked to some people there. These no-go zones where
Right.
No one
Sweden.
goes, yeah, Sweden, and I think that's something that people are revolting against because you come to my country, you're going to be Danish, you're going to be Swedish, you're going to be French, you're not going to be this other thing, and you're not going to thumb your nose at our laws.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hold on one second. Honey, hello. I'm doing a podcast. Goodbye. That was the IT department that didn't realize I was
Excellent.
doing a
Yeah.
podcast. Sue's Love Jeffy says, seems to me that conservative women are the true and real feminists. I agree 110%. Do what you want to do. Be you. That's us, you know?
Yep, and that's where you find strong women. It is amazing to me that the quote unquote feminists are the ones that are not standing up for this assail and assault on Title IX. These
Right.
women that have said that they're feminists, they don't mind of the redefinition of the word woman. So that now a biological male can go out there and compete against women in track and field and boxing. They and also in swimming. So you're right. I think conservative women are the real feminists, and they really do believe in strong women and women's rights that are not based upon being a victim, but the equality of opportunity.
Mhm. We've been dancing around this issue of women in the military and the big uproar on the left, which I thought was hilarious. Speaking of women, conservative women, liberal women, a big uproar over the idea that maybe women would be required to go down and
Mhm.
register for the draft. And I'm thinking to myself, well, so I'm of two minds. First of all, I don't think women should have to register for the draft until there are women on the Joint Chiefs and who get to make some of the decisions regarding, female soldiers. But then the other part of me thought, well, this could be fun
Mhm.
because define woman. We got to start there. So if we've got like a bunch of corporal clingers running around, right, a bunch of dudes in dresses who identify as a woman, are they suddenly going to go back to being male
Well, the
or
interesting thing that
the
you look
opposite?
at these individuals that are in the military, claiming to be women, having to go to these hormonal therapies or whatever, they get a waiver from doing physical training, and they are considered to be non-deployable because they have to be on these medications and things of this nature. So they really are a drag on the readiness of our United States forces, and so you know
No pun intended.
yeah, no pun intended. I'm sorry. I didn't even realize I said that. Thanks for catching it. I mean, I made myself look witty, and I didn't even know it. But,
Well, you
but
made me laugh. So why do we have them in the military? Why don't we kick them out if the only thing we do with them in the military is pay for their hormones?
well, that's the whole point. I mean, that's what they're telling. Join the military and we'll pay for this. That's not the purpose of the military. That's not what the American taxpayer is supposed to be doing. The military exists to fight and win. The purpose of our military and the purpose of recruiting is to recruit, to train, to equip, to better prepare, take care of families, deploy to fight and to win. That's it. And we need to get back to that. It's not about social agendas. Now, there'll be some people say, yeah, but Colonel, this is what we did. We integrated the forces. The reason why, Truman made the decision to integrate the forces because you could not continue to pay to have two separate types of facilities, a black installation and a white
Right.
installation. It just didn't make sense. And as furthermore, I mean, blacks have proven themselves for quite some time since the 54th Massachusetts Regiment that they could fight side by side, and they did so in Korea. And that's why we saw this thing say, a soldier's a soldier, a sailor's a sailor, marine a marine. As a matter of fact, in the Marine Corps, they said there are green and dark green Marines. That's how they would explain it. So I
That's
think that we
great.
have to get away from these divisions and saying that, Mary, you're a white soldier, you're an oppressor, and you're always going to be an oppressor. Alan, you're a black soldier, you're a victim, you're always going to be oppressed by Mary. You can't have a cohesive fighting force that way.
No.
So we need to get rid of all of that crap and get back to having generals and civilian leaders that understand what the purpose and the mission is of our United States military.
Sue says, my two daughters are between 18 and 24. This is something that concerns me, especially under this administration. I find with this whole thing, so the whole thing about women having to register for the draft, I I don't. I think everyone can do something. I'm kind of a fan of, and I said it for a long time. I've said it even when I was younger, and if I had to do it, great. I think everybody in this country should have to do like Israel does, 2 years of service of some kind. Doesn't mean you have to be active duty,
Yeah.
but everybody can do something. People in wheelchairs can do data entry. Everybody can do something. And I think that for all of the opportunities that this country gives you, that you can sign up in 2 years out of high school or whatever until you cook a little bit more and you're not as dumb, we put you in and we're going to straighten your butt out. And I think because we have so many young men who don't have a father figure in their life, they could use a little butt kicking from the military.
You know,
So
it's
I
that's
like,
something that you see, these young men who have not had a strong, positive male role model, their drill sergeant becomes that first role model. Or, later on, their platoon sergeant, their first sergeant. And that's something that they seek to emulate. So you're right. I think that this is a great place, but I don't want us to force people that don't want to be there into the military, because as a former commander, I do not need to spend 98% of my time on the 2% of my troops that don't want to be there. I
right.
would rather us make sure that we are doing what's right to take care of our troops, pay them well, take care of their families, and they're going to join the military. We have never seen the volunteer army fail. The volunteer military, the all volunteer military, has not failed until this administration.
Yeah.
And it has everything to do with their policies.
Do you think they will make women register for the draft or not?
I don't think so. I
No, I don't
think
think
that
they will
there'll be,
either.
yeah, I think there'll be an uproar against that.
Yeah, it's too politically crazy. Um, I don't think we're going to get to the election stuff. A lot of people have questions for you. They love this.
Let's do it.
Sal says, "Do you think we will reenact the draft again out of desperation?"
No, we don't need to reenact a draft out of desperation. We need to change the leadership in the White House. The commander in chief needs to be a true American that understands what our military is supposed to be. And Colonel David Hackworth once coined this phrase, "perfume princes." We need to get rid of these perfume princes, these generals that are up there, and they have completely lost understanding. They took an oath to support and defend the Constitution, not to support and defend ideological, policies that will enable them to keep getting promoted. So that's what we have to do. And you also have to have the requisite right type of civilian leadership as Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Army, Secretary of the Navy, Secretary
Right.
of the Air Force, and what have you, to make sure that you see those things through.
Gregory says Colonel Denny Gillum has
Oh
said on
yeah.
his radio show that the military has but two goals: kill people and break things.
Yep, it's true, and I've been on Colonel Gillum's show many a time. Uh, in the military, you support the war fighter. That's it. Either you're a war fighter, you're a trigger puller, or you're supporting the trigger pullers. And I was an artillery guy, and I was trained to do exactly that. Blow things up from a ways away. And the infantry, they called on me when they needed me to blow people up that were getting in their way. And so you just need to get back to those very simple tasks and purposes. Now, can we retask and remission people to do some type of humanitarian support missions? Yeah, true. But their primary mission is, as it says right there, meet people that maybe don't like you, you kill them, and then you break things.
Or sometimes you could break things first and then kill people.
Well, sometimes you if you break things, you get them in line. I used to always, people say you have to, Colonel, you got to win over their hearts and mind. I said sometimes you have to rip out their heart in order to get their mind.
Sometimes that's all they understand.
That's true, and that's all evil understands.
Yep. Sue says, I'm so on board with that, meaning some kind of service, 2 years or something when you get out of high school. And I think also that gives you a better view of life. When you come out of college and, okay, now I got to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. I had 4 majors in 2 years in college. My father always was like, oh, what major? Every time he got my report card, he'd be like, what major are we this semester? I didn't know what I wanted to do, and Lord knows, look what I chose to do. And holy crap, if I could go back and do it all again, I'd maybe want to make some money. But I just like the idea of some service to something greater than yourself, and I
Absolutely.
think we'd see a resurgence of people being more patriotic, understanding more about this country. and
Yeah.
what it takes to defend it, and that the people who do this job, thank God for them, who choose to do it as their career. Thank God for them,
Yeah.
instead of looking down on them as they're low, they're yokels, they're Trump supporters, they're maggots,
Well,
they're all Southern, and et
remember
cetera, et
John
cetera.
Kerry? Remember when John Kerry said if you couldn't go to college, you joined the military? How disgusting that was for him to say
Yep.
that.
Didn't he throw his? Oh, he fake threw his
He
medals
faked
back,
through his
right?
nose. Yeah.
Fake threw them. He didn't really do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very Sal says this has been a great broadcast. Thanks for having the Colonel on. Yes, absolutely. I want to very quickly change gears here, because um, in your role as the head of the Dallas County Republican Party, you just put out an open letter, got right to work, an open letter that you are calling to audit the Dallas County Elections Department. You're not talking about doing a recount or challenging the last election results, but preparing for the upcoming election to audit the process and make sure that everything is being done in the right way. Is there a reason why you called for that?
Yeah, because we have seen things not be done in the right way. And I'm not going back ad nauseum ad infinitum. I'm looking from 2022 to where we are today. And we have just seen a lot of irregularities as far as processes, procedures, and protocols with tabulation machines and central accumulators, and not using consecutive ballots, which lends itself to other problems. And, I'm asking the question, what's the procedures to make sure that there is security when you're just having these unsolicited mail-in ballots? What are the security and procedures to make sure we don't have illegal immigrants voting? Why do we have, not precincts, but we have this countywide voting? We should never have, we ran out of ballots. And so we have to go and dump a completely different set of sequential ballots somewhere. There should be planning done, like you say, planning. So I think it's very important that we restore confidence in our electoral systems and processes by, having this independent third party see and say, okay, are you operating within Texas election law? And the other thing that, I kind of, go after is our Texas Secretary of State, and that's a Republican. But last time I checked, unelected bureaucrats should not be able to waive law. And that's what we have here in Texas, is unelected bureaucrats in the Texas Secretary of State's office waiving an election law, instead of that going back through the legislative process and, being, passed or failing. So there are a lot of things that we need to do here in Texas. And I just want to make sure that we do things that are constitutional as per the law to protect everyone's vote.
No, I like that. And this comes on the heels of, I don't know how many people saw this, but there was a hearing in Georgia
Mhm.
regarding Fulton County. And
That's where I was born.
oh yeah, you got out though. Uh, and there was the video made the rounds, and they're asking the people who did this audit of the 2020 election, and the woman who was leading the panel that was asking these questions says, "Well, can we see the proof? We want to see the proof. We want to see the work that you did." And they're like, "Well, we can't show that to you." And they couldn't show it to them. And she asked, "Well, why can't we see the proof?" Oh, and there was all these excuses. Well, Liz Harrington has on Thread Reader. She did Thread Reader is great because it takes, if you have tweets,
Hmm.
it'll take them and it just takes them out and it puts it in one thread that you can read. And here's what she says. According to, there's a complaint filed in Fulton County, Rossi Kevin Moncla, and it says there are over 20,000 unsubstantiated ballots in Georgia's 2020 original results from tabulators that do not exist, according to this complaint. Fulton County, though, provided proof that they do exist. Okay. Except their proof showed that they use serial numbers for different machines. There's a word for this. It's called fraud. They claim there was an ICP3 at the East Point Library during early voting. Only problem, there were only 2 scanners there, not 3, according to Fulton County's own checklist.
Yeah.
And it says in the papers that were presented in this complaint, this is wrong. The serial number reflected in the records for East Point Library's ICP3 is the same as the serial number for the East Point Library ICP2. as
Mhm.
identified in the checklist. So how can they both have the same number if there were three there? The checklist only shows two
Yep.
machines there. Let's see. It's also important to note the checklist only shows two tabulators, not three, which is because there were never three tabulators at the East Point Library for advanced voting. They did the same thing for a tabulator they claimed was at the South Fulton Service Center polling location. They said there was a third when there were only two. And again, their evidence proves that they're lying.
Yeah. And that's why
Same,
that's
go
why
ahead.
we got to look at processes and procedures and
Right.
protocols. And these things don't lie. Serial numbers don't lie. Ballots, if they're not in proper sequence, they don't lie. And that's what we have to get to. When you start to talk about algorithms and things inside computers and formulas and all of this stuff, algebraic equations, the everyday Joe and Jane six pack, their eyes roll into the back
Yep.
of their heads.
Yep.
You got to keep this very simple so that everyone understands it. It's just like, Proximo told Maximus in the movie Gladiator, you got to win the crowd. And when you present this argument in a way that people can understand and say, that doesn't make sense, that's how you win the crowd.
Yeah. But the thing is people can understand. Well, they said there were three. These votes came
Hmm.
from the third tabulator,
But there wasn't
the
one.
which there wasn't one. So where did they come from? And the same thing for Wolf Creek Library. They invented a fourth tabulator using the serial number of the third. No wonder the Secretary of State's office didn't release their investigation findings to the public because it's all bogus. Fulton County's proof that the 10 missing tabulators existed actually proves that they didn't and that the results for early voting were tampered with. But I'm going to say something. This is what bothers me about all of this beyond the obvious is that they don't care that we see it. They don't care that we know. They got what they wanted. They wanted Joe Biden. They got Joe Biden. They don't care that we see the lawfare against Trump. They're going to do what they do. They don't care that we see Christopher Wray refusing to charge Merrick Garland with contempt, but yet Steve Bannon's going to go to jail for
Mhm.
contempt, and Peter
Navarro.
Navarro is in jail for contempt. They don't care. And so that says to me that they have already they're so confident in their power at this point in the game that I wonder if there really is even a fair election.
Well, they don't care because are never any consequences or ramifications to their actions.
Right.
And I think it's so important. Georgia is a red state, and Fulton County exists within Georgia. There should be some consequences and ramifications against the individuals there, just the same as with Fannie Willis. And Republicans, conservatives, however you want to look at it, we've got to stop being afraid of being called a name. And we've got to do the things that are necessary and the right and true. I'm looking for some local district attorney here in Texas to bring a lawsuit against Joe Biden and his open border policies and
Yeah.
how they're affecting him. Or how about some parents? How about the parents of Lake and Raleigh bringing a lawsuit against President Biden because their daughter would still be alive? Or the mother in Maryland of five children who was just raped and killed by an illegal immigrant. When you start to take those type of actions against them and make it a national story and say, look, we're not going to relent. Your policies are directly leading toward the death of my child from fentanyl, the death of my wife, the rape of my daughter, all of these things. So we have got to understand. There was a great lesson that I learned from a Marine first sergeant. He's retired, Jim Reifinger. And he said, if you find yourself in a fair fight, it's all because your tactics suck. For too long, the tactics of Republicans have just
Yep.
sucked. Here we are
Yep.
in the state of Texas, and we got Republicans that think that you should appoint Democrats in a Texas state majority House as committee chairs. Screw them. Okay.
Yep.
That, we should not power share with these people that really they wouldn't power share with you if they were in the majority. So there has to be consequences and ramifications. And, when we see Rachel Madcow sitting around talking about, they're going to, imprison people. If you did wrong, you should be in prison. If you're Andrew McCabe and you lied on, FISA warrants, you should be in prison. And so that's the level of reciprocity we should have, not revenge, for reciprocity and adherence to the rule of law.
Yeah, Sal's right here. He says Republicans need to grow a pair, not worry about bad publicity, or let women Republican elected officials lead the way. That's very true. The women on the Republican side are the ones with all the balls. The men are so worried about being reelected that they don't put themselves out there. Marjorie Taylor Greene has a set. Elise Stefanik has a set. There are just so many more of them that are out there, and they just don't care. They call it like they see it, and the men are like the men. Like I look at Mitch McConnell, who's just more worried about making more money, and the men are very almost beta males. Not all of them.
No, they're Delta males.
Delta males.
They're Delta males. No, I'm beyond. They're Delta males.
Yeah. And the women are the ones who are out there. Why hasn't a DA in Texas done this? Why not?
I have no idea. And that should be done. Or not just but anywhere. They
Yeah.
if Alvin Bragg can, create a felony out of a misdemeanor and push it past the statute of limitations, and you have a judge who should have recused himself, and the left is sitting around cheering, we need to enact our own type of lawfare against them as well.
I agree. And unfortunately, we just don't do that. But I agree. We got to let the women do it. Now Tax USA says, why not a class action suit against major media for lying, as their lying influences the population's actions, like false advertisement? Lying is not a First Amendment right. It is public perjury.
I agree. When you are CNN and you allow the president to sit there and say that I inherited a 9% inflation rate and you don't say anything about it, yeah, you should bring charges. CNN, I don't appreciate you putting out false information. This is propaganda. It goes against the social contract that you have as a news organization.
We use that term lightly with them. Suze says it makes no sense to me that the rolls aren't checked every year. ID is a must. Mail-ins must be on time, signed and dated. It is for the primary. Easy peasy. Just want to try it out.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And when you look at these unsolicited mail-in ballots that are sent out against voter registration or voter eligibility lists that have not been, verified. And that's why one of the things that I said in that letter is that I think that every month, the Democrat and Republican Party here in Dallas County, we should get the voter eligibility list here in Dallas County and let us go out and do canvassing. Let us go out and do a 10 to 15% survey of that voter eligibility list in the different precincts. And let's see, if that voter eligibility list is valid.
Yeah, if it syncs up, if you got 14 people all registered at the same address and it's a warehouse, then something probably isn't quite right with that. And go out and do that. One more quick question, and then I'm going to let you go because we are running a little bit late, but we had such a good conversation. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. Is Joe Biden the candidate for the Democrats?
I think that they're setting the stage to make that decision post this debate on the 27th.
Who do they put in though?
It doesn't matter. And I think that that's the story that, really great, astute people like you that are all over, talk radio. You need to say it doesn't matter. Joe Biden or whomever, it's about the policies. Nothing's going to change about the economy. Nothing's going to change about our energy security. Nothing's going to change about the border. I don't care if it's Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, Pritzker from Illinois, your guy, Murphy from there.
Oh, God, no. Oh, God, no.
But I'm just telling you, that's the point. It does not matter who they put in there. It's going to be the exact same policies. It's going to be the exact same puppet masters, being it Barack Obama, George Soros, or whomever. So they just know that Joe Biden cannot be the face of their foolishness anymore.
Right. I'm just curious. I think, though, that Trump can beat Joe Biden. And so I think it matters greatly who they put in, because it could be someone who will be more palatable to the people who suffer from Trump derangement syndrome, who just won't vote. They just can't vote for Donald Trump. They just have to vote against him. So it makes it more palatable to them. But they have their Kamala Harris problem. How do you not put her up? How do you leapfrog over a Black woman?
You can't.
In the
And that is the pitfall of identity politics.
Exactly.
And so it could not happen to a better bunch of people, because if all of a sudden they don't elevate her and say, you run for president, then all the sister girls across the United States of America ain't going to vote. And you're already losing the Black men.
It's going to be such an amazing, interesting uh, uh, race. It's going to be crazy. Hermit says Alvin Bragg was able to do that because New York suffers from terminal Trump derangement syndrome. New York laws tend to be written and rewritten in invisible ink. It's very true. Sue says, "Oh God, no, not Phil Murphy." She's so right. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, thank you so much.
My
You can
pleasure.
find him at Alan West on X. Follow him there. Check out his Substack as well. Thank you so much for joining me. I
Anytime.
love when you come on. It's such a great, easy conversation. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
And we'll see you in Florida next March when you ride on the airplane and I jump out.
Okay, okay.
All right.
I'm going to let you go and then I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much. Take
Bye
care,
bye.
sir. So just so you know, I will be in for David Webb on Thursday and Friday, 9 to noon Eastern Time on Sirius Patriot Channel 125. This weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I will be on the Wendy Bell Show on Newsmax TV. Monday, I will be on Newsmax TV on the Chris Salcedo Show, usually between 4:30 and 5 o'clock Eastern Time. And then Monday, I will also be in for Brian Kilmeade from 9 a.m. to noon. So Mondays, 9 a.m. to noon on radio for Brian Kilmeade, and then between 4:30 and 5 o'clock on TV on the Chris Salcedo Show. And Tuesday morning, I will be in on Breitbart News Daily, the morning show on Sirius Patriot Channel 125 from 6 to 9 a.m. So I've got a crazy busy couple of days coming up, but I'm excited to do it. And then, of course, next Tuesday, Jim Verdi will be joining us. I'm pretty sure he is Dan Bongino's. Let me just make sure before I pre-sell something. Ain't gonna happen. Hold on, stick with me. Yep, Jim Verdi, as of right now, will be joining us. He is Dan Bongino's producer, and he wrote a book about what it's like working with Dan Bongino. So he is going to be joining us next Tuesday. Of course, you guys, thank you so much. Watching your back. Awesome chat. Thank you. You guys are the best, by the way. Without you, you have such great questions, make such great comments. Thank you for letting us interact with someone who I consider a true American hero. He's so wonderful, isn't he, Greg? He's fantastic. Rich says, thank you, Mary and Colonel West. Wonderful podcast tonight. Take care. Suze, thank you both for a great talk. Loved it. Porch View, this has been the most special show ever. Thank you. And Porch View, thank you. I had no idea you come from such a military family. That's wonderful. No wonder I like you. BX Sendy, I don't even know what that means. Hermit Sal saying good night. Now Tax USA. And Sue says, can I find times on your site? Suze, follow me on X, and I put everything out on X. All right. So this week, Thursday and Friday, I will be on SiriusXM Patriot, 9 to noon in for David Webb. So that's the first thing this week. All right. But I put everything on X. So if you follow me on X, we're good to go. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a fantastic week. Rest of your week. Hope it's not too hot where you are. Got to tell you, Jersey Shore, we didn't get above 70 today. Sorry, but that's one of the lovely things about living at the Jersey Shore. Have a great time, and thank you so much for joining me.